So going to, and you asked about people first language, so using inclusive language, and I believe this is important because everything that you do has been written, or you're speaking, or your communication and content. This is extremely important, where we have to be more inclusive in the language that we choose. So going to people first language, when we talk about ability status and mental health, historically we had a tendency to say disabled person, wheelchair bound, blind person. We define them based on their disability. And people first language is when you define them based on who they are. So a person with a disability. So if you take off with, they're just a person. Someone who uses a wheelchair. So it's putting the person first, opposed to putting the ability status or their blight or their color before who they are. Oh, this is a African American designer. Well, they're a designer that's African American. So, that's so important because it takes us away from trying to identify them and define them and recognize them as who they are. And you have some, especially on the task force, we receive questions all the time, even internally within the task force, where we say, where are all the African American designers? Where are all the black designers? And, we can't do a Google search and find them. And I've had conversations with a few of the task force members saying, well, they're probably not putting, hi, my name is so-and-so, I'm an African American designer. They're putting, hi, my name is so-and-so, I'm a designer. Like, they don't want to be defined, like, yes, they are they're a person of color, but that's not what defines them as who they are. Like, for them, they're a person. And, remembering that in whatever form of fashion that we use it. Also, avoiding using the terms suffering from or afflicted with, differently abled or special. There's other terms I could say that I do not say just because they have such a negative connotation that I just don't even touch on them. But just being respectful of individuals when you speak about them. And going to race and ethnicity, I love this quote from Henry Louis Gates where he says, identity is complex, its roots lie beneath the surface, is a product of events that we don't know about ourselves. So the fact that sometimes we want to silo people and say, you're only this and you're only that, that's not the case, that's not true. But when we go to race and ethnicity, if you don't know, ask. That's the best advice I give people. If you don't know, ask. You have some African Americans that want to be called black. You have some that want to be called African American. Personally, I like to be called caramel, but that's just my skin tone. But, it doesn't bother me if someone calls me black. It doesn't bother me if someone calls me African American. Now, if you call me colored, then we have a problem. But you have some that that doesn't bother them. So, if you don't know, ask. But ask respectfully, not what are you? Please don't say that. That is so bad. Or in some cases, when you have this connotation of where are you from? And most of the time it's said to someone of a different race. And it's like, well, I'm from San Francisco. That's where I'm from. So, just being respectful of people's backgrounds, their culture. I have a few examples up here versus saying Indian. You could say Native American. But, it's now this movement of saying first people or first Americans because technically they were here before America was invented. Also Latino versus Hispanic versus Mexican. Not all Asians are Chinese. Some of these are commonly known and some of them are not. And one thing that in researching that was not previously on this slide, but I added today, was American versus US American, which is this new kind of movement towards this because when we say I'm an American, it's essentially excluding people that live in Brazil and Argentina, and it kind of has this privileged type mindset that we're the only Americans in the world, where actually we're just on the North American continent. So, even if we were to say we're North Americans, there's Canadians that are North Americans, there's Mexicans that's North Americans. So, the advice now in the movement is to more say we're US Americans, opposed to just American. And I know you don't really speak to religion much at AIGA, but I always like to include this. Not everyone celebrates Christmas. Not everyone celebrates their birthday. In America, we very much have this Christian majority type mindset. to the point where people say when you say happy holidays, it's being too PC. But no, not everyone celebrates these holidays. And when I worked at Diversity Awareness Partnership, we actually did an annual calendar of over 300 holidays that we would always recognize and celebrate. Looking at all, I think it was maybe at one time 17 different religions. And we didn't have it all. And once again, this goes to inclusion. Some of us, you know, I'm Christian, well, ish. I just said it's the truth. My religion is love. That's my religion. It's love and respect. And while I was raised in Christianity, I'm ish. But you know, when we have, such as the religion of Sikhism, like I don't know anything about that. So we actually had an interfaith committee that will give us advice on what we were creating and telling us religions, and we double checked because we could have easily just Googled them and like, oh, well, this seems right, but that would not have been authentic. So always including people at the table. Avoid only recognizing Christian holidays, but like I said, at AIGA, I don't really see you doing a lot with holidays, but I have noticed, like especially with Aiden being at the front, doing diversity type of holidays over time, and just in case you expand, just being recognizing this.